Can you
Yes.
guys hear me? Oh, great. So let's begin today's session. Back neck straight. Gently close your eyes and start observing the breath. Just connect with the natural flow. Do not change the breath. And once your body becomes stable and the mind becomes a little bit calm, begin to deepen your breath. And prepare yourselves for chanting Om, followed by the Shanti mantra. Inhale deeply for Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhina sarve santu niramantu sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkha ma kaschit dukkha. Feel the vibration. Join both the palms together in front of the chest and rub with the palms together. Place them on the eyes. Very slowly while blinking and looking at the palms, at the eyes. Come back with a smile. Namaste to everyone. Let us begin today's session. So yesterday we were talking about Jnana Yoga and we had started with the four main pillars, right, which are required for you to go into the core practices. So we had discussed Vivek and Vairagya, discrimination and detachment, and we had actually started with the six virtues, Shat Sampat, right? And first one is Shama. So yesterday we talked about Shama a little bit, right? Let's move to the next virtue, which is called Dhamma. DAMA, or controlling the senses, right? So this is the second one, controlling the senses. We can also say training the senses, right? So, senses have this tendency to run away very easily, especially, when we hear something or when we, see something, immediately we get attached to it. We don't even realize. But these are two very, very strong senses, right? Which are being utilized almost all of the time. You need to keep the eyes open whenever you do something, right? Except meditation or when you are going to sleep. Most you keep the eyes open throughout the day, and even your hearing sense, right? So any sound you that is coming from your vicinity also, you cannot avoid it, right? Yeah, it is going to fall on your ears, right? So depending on what environment you are in, you are also constantly connected to the sound. Other senses are still utilized little bit less, but hearing and seeing are two senses which are really hard to control, because everything we do, the way in which we talk,
Can't hear now.
is my voice clear? It was breaking in between.
Now I can hear you.
All right. Okay, yeah. I was talking about, training or controlling the senses, the second virtue that you need to develop. And I was saying that, the eyes and the ears, these are two things which we, highly, which we are really dependent upon in order to, understand the world around us. Other senses are also used, but these two are engaged the most, right? So when you wake up also, you wake up to the sound of the alarm, most of us do, right? So these two senses, play a very important role whenever we are trying to understand something, perceive something around us. And because it is hard for us to train them or gain control over them. So by gaining control, I mean directing them, right? So right now they can run in any direction, and whatever object, it's not necessary that you choose the object that you are exposing them to, like sounds, wherever you are, all the sounds around over there, they are bound to fall uh, on your ears, right? And you cannot always like control the external thing, right? So but internally, the mind can be uh, at least directed towards a positive, uh, in a positive way, right? So by training and controlling, this is what we mean, when the mind is stable, it becomes easier to control the senses, right? So the last previous with the development of this virtue, because see, once the mind starts coming a little bit in control, right, then it is easy for us to even train the senses to control the senses you hiring stressful day or whatever. Like for some reason your willpower is really low, and somebody, if they say that okay, let's go out and have some junk food, or let's go and do XYZ thing, which it's not good for your health, right? And you will go and do that thing very easily. You will see on the days that you are tired, you don't want to fight off uh, certain things which you might have a tendency to do, but generally you avoid them, right? So same thing like junk food example only I will take. Maybe you have taste for junk food, all of us do, because we have it's all around us, right? Junk food is and fast food is, right, like more easily available, easy to access, yeah, tastier, uh, right? So on generally maybe you do not go ahead and eat those things, but on the day when your willpower will be low, your mind will be totally stressed out, exhausted, you will see that you will also lose some control over your senses, that right? So when you attain stability of the mind, control over the mind, that is when you can actually work on developing this virtue much more effectively, right? So any which way you can do it, right? I'm not saying that you cannot, but it is much easier to attain control over the senses when the mind is stable and calm, right? Then we come to the third virtue, right? So that is uparti.
How do you spell it?
Yeah, I'm writing it in the chat box also. So Dhamma was Dama, and Uparti is Uparti. Uparti, right? So this one means withdrawal of senses, right? So now we have come to the stage where mind is stable, right? Hence the senses are in our control, right? So second stage also takes a lot of time to work on, where you train the senses, train the control the senses. But once you gain control over them, it is only then that you will be able to withdraw them. If you have no sense of control over the senses or the mind, you will never be able to withdraw the senses, right? So like all of us, we are working on asanas every day, pranayama every day. So all of these practices contribute to some level of control, right? Let me give you an example. Maybe in the asana class, you are going through a lot of pain. You are doing certain practices and it hurts, right? Especially in the beginning, when you begin, it's such a drastic change for the body that your body starts paining in the beginning, right? So at that point of time you fight that, right? You are just like, no, it is for my good. And when you hold in the asana, it hurts, but somewhere now you have to breathe deeply through it. So what is the deep breath doing to you? It is allowing you to gain some control over the mind. That is the main work that the breath is doing. Apart from all other things, it is when your mind says that no, leave this posture, it's hurting too much, this internal voice comes in your head that let's just take a few deep breaths. Our teacher told us that we should take a few deep breaths, it's going to help. So as soon as the mind has a tendency to leave a practice, you come up with a response, right? So it is when you have that control over the mind, that is when you are able to control your movement also, right? And when you control the movement, that is when you can choose to, eventually, you can also close the eyes. You see that sometimes, when you practice asanas, naturally your eyes will close, right? There are some points in the practice when or some days in your practice where you will normally feel like, closing the eyes, disconnecting from everything, right? So because you worked so many days with asana, so many days with your practice, that is when this point comes where one thing is naturally the senses are withdrawn, and second thing is you are prepared to withdraw the senses, right? So it's not as if you are doing the asana and you're intentionally closing the eyes. Some days in your practice you are going to feel a very good flow in the body, and naturally you will feel like withdrawing the senses because you want to stay more connected to yourself rather than the external environment around you. And as soon as you close the eyes, a lot of the distractions cut off, like just by closing the eyes, because eyes are very helpful. This sense is very helpful for us, but at the same time we don't realize that it is also a very big distraction for us, right? So as you develop in the first two, you will see that the third one also starts happening naturally, and eventually you develop in that as well, right? So you come to this stage where you feel so detached. See, Vairagya is also coming in over here. You feel so detached to everything else and so attached to your practice, and experiencing what you are doing and who you are, that this withdrawal of senses will come to you, right? So once you withdraw the senses, right, then you work on the next virtue, Pratiksha, or tolerance. Titike So when we talk of tolerance or endurance, uh, we are actually, working on something which is not impossible to achieve, right? But if we push our limits enough, we can achieve it. So it's not exactly in your comfort zone, and it's not exactly in a place where it is impossible. It's somewhere in between, and it's going to require a lot of push from you, or a lot of uh, uh, willpower from you, right? In order to do that thing. So same thing, like when we talk of tolerance, we are talking about the area between these two things, where one is your comfort zone, you can do it easily, and one is impossible to achieve. There is this space in between where you can achieve a lot of things, but you have to put in a lot of hard work, right? And when you are in the yoga environment especially, you will see that a yogi, so a yogi, is all alone, right? And walks, right? Doesn't know where next food is going to come from, right? Doesn't know where the shelter is going to be, right? But uh, still chooses to go on this path, right? And they also face a lot of difficulties, and much more than we do, right? So we face small difficulties. We are still stuck in day to day difficulties that we face, right? Fighting with the parents, fighting with our siblings, our partners, right? So we are stuck in these day to day things only, right? But yogi faces a lot of difficulties, and if they do not develop this much more. The yogis deep understanding. When they walk on the path of yoga, they have this deep understanding that everything that is external to them that cause hindrance in their way, because they are trying to go for the highest goal, right? Highest goal meaning being free from all suffering, right? So a lot of obstacles are there in their way, right? Not develop this straight ahead in their journey, right? So if you are able to train the mind in such a way, right, that it is able to bear the things, right? Because everything as a distraction might seem you don't want to do, or some external environment, like thing in the external environment which is not acting in your favor, right? So when this thing happens, then only the virtue of tolerance will come in and save. And this only comes in after you have attained a lot of stability on the earlier three virtues, right? So if the mind is going haywire, then there is no way in which you can develop a sense of tolerance, right? Can we cannot. We cannot. If the mind is not stable, right, it's not tranquil, so we cannot. Same with the senses. If we just keep you know running in the direction of the senses, we are never going to work on our tolerance. It is when you actually make the time to develop this after attaining a little bit stability over yourselves. That is when you develop this virtue of tolerance. You will see as you do more and more, practice of all the aspects, be it Shatkarma, Asana, Pranayam, meditation, right? All of these things, no matter what you do, right? When you go deeply into these things, you will see that your tolerance by default will increase. By default, you will not even realize, how your tolerance is increasing. You wouldn't even know. Now you won't get disturbed by things so much, or it will take you some time to, get disturbed at that level. But still, it starts happening, and you don't recognize why. You are passing through all of these stages yourself. This is, I am teaching it as a part of Gyan Yoga, but we all, we do when we practice yoga, we go through all of these things, right? So you will see by default the tolerance increases, and it is so important for you to work on the virtue of tolerance, because the path of Gyan Yoga is not easy. It is tougher than other forms, right? Raj Yoga is really advanced level, but Gyan Yoga is very tough. You will have to have the endurance within your mind, in order to handle the truths, in order to, not only handle them, after that work on it, right? It requires a lot of tolerance. And Titiksha, that is why it has been placed in the foundational, like aspect of Gyan Yoga, and not in the core practices. So in core practices also they could have said, that develop tolerance, but no. Core practices, when you go to core practices, they are so deep and advanced that you already need to have certain virtues in order to, even digest what is being told to you or taught to you, right? So after Titiksha, we come to the fifth virtue, which is Shraddha. Shraddha, right? So we have all heard this word. Sorry. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I thought that you weren't able to. All right. Yeah. So I was talking of Shraddha, right? So this is one thing we all struggle with, and this is where, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but all parts of yoga, they merge into each other. So initially, starting point is going to be different for you, but eventually, you will see that you will see aspects of Karma Yoga also, you will see aspects of Bhakti Yoga also. So this is the aspect of Bhakti Yoga coming in Jnana, right? Faith, and faith is so hard to develop, right? Because we don't trust anyone, right? It is so hard to fully trust someone. You only did it as kids, right? When you blindly trusted your parents, you were too little to comprehend something. Now, because the mind works so much, our analytical mind, cognitive mind, it works so much. We analyze everything, and it is easier for us to analyze and try to make sense, but we do not trust, right? We do not have that deep level of faith. And there are so many aspects that I can talk of when this topic of faith is touched upon. First and most important, which I consider to be the most important, is faith in our own selves. First thing is, we do not have faith in ourselves. Today we have everything in our lives, food, clothes, shelter. If you go ages back, people were struggling to have these things. All of their day-to-day life, their activities were circled around these things, right? But now we have everything. We have technology. We have, uh, all types of varieties of food. We have everything that we could have ever dreamed of. But still, you know, we lack faith. We lack so much faith. And I'm not talking about anything external. First thing that I always discuss is faith in our own selves. We do not believe in ourselves, right? So most of the times, you will see your own mind is playing tricks, right? And it is playing tricks in this form only, where it isn't able to believe in itself, right? You doubt your abilities, you doubt your own potential, right? That somebody, if somebody says that, okay, from tomorrow let's start doing yoga, right? And earlier you didn't practice yoga, and at that point of time somebody could have come and said this,
Can't hear now.
right? uh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Alright. I was talking of faith and how we lack faith in our own selves, right? So most of the times you will see that you do a lot of things because you don't believe in yourself, right? There's nothing else that is stopping you. It's just that you do not believe in yourself. You think you might be able to do it, but you are somewhere, doubtful. So you just try to avoid that thing. So first start on developing faith in your own self, right? Once you are confident that no matter what comes on your way, you are going to be able to deal with it. You are going to be able to manage it. Now you have the right tools also to manage it. Yoga, yoga is such an amazing tool to, navigate through life, right? So once you trust no matter what comes on your way, you will be able to deal with it, you will be able to overcome it. That is when you start believing in everything outside of. So everything outside you, you believe in only when you believe a little bit in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you will see that you are having a lot of trust issues. You are having a lot of um, these kinds of things you are having, because externally how you are dealing is a reflection of what you feel internally, right? So if you are not able to like believe in your own self, you probably might not have faith in something outside of, right? So once you work on believing in your own self, having that faith and trust towards your own self, that is when you will see that you are more open towards the trust and faith that you have towards something external to you, right? So the first thing that comes external to you but works on you is your practice, right? So if you do not believe in your practice, you will never be able to pursue it. Or even if you are pursuing it, you will not be able to pursue it very deeply, because you don't believe in it, right? And if you do not believe in something, you will probably not end up continuing, right? So sometimes uh, you try to convince people that yoga is very good, but they do not believe in it. So suppose you take a few classes also, and you say this happens mostly with family members, right? So if you are too much into spirituality and yoga and all of these things, you will see your family members are completely opposite. They are in opposite directions, right? They are pursuing something else only. They are mostly not in these. So okay, now you are practicing yoga, you want them to practice yoga, so you start my family member only, so I can teach them. So they live with me, so let me teach them. I do my practice every day, I will make them join. So you somehow go convince them to join, right? And when you do that for a few days, they will come with a lot of determination and joining. But after a while it is going to fade away. They are not able to continue their practice. And the reason why this happens is because belief, more than any other thing, what your belief system is will highly influence everything in your life, the quality of your life, the way in which you exist and deal with people. It is all based on what you believe in, right? So you will only be able to continue with these practices if you really believe that they have this ability to change, that they have this strength to change you, instead of just doing it as a monotonous everyday routine. You actually recognize the strength in these practices. That is when you will be able to stick with these practices and make them a part of your life, instead of taking out time to do yoga. You know that it is a part of you, right? It is something you have to do. Like, you have to wake up every morning, you have to eat food every day, breathe air in order to exist. So you have to practice yoga like that, right? So it is a part of your existence. It is such an important part of who we are, right? So when you develop on the virtue of faith, it is then that you see that you are able to advance in your practice. And the third thing, which is quite external to you, right? And you have to take, them at their word, your guru, right? So if you do not believe in your guru, no matter how many classes you attend, no matter how many asanas you do, you will not be able to actually gain what you are looking for, right? If you do not believe in the teacher, if you doubt the competence of the teacher, you say that, my asanas are better, or the teacher doesn't know how to guide, right? Or this teacher doesn't know how to guide. Will you ever be able to learn? No matter how little someone has to offer to you, it depends on the capability of your own capability as a student, rather than trying to judge the capability of the teacher. uh, your own capability as a student will determine how much you absorb, right? So even the worst teacher will teach you something if you are a good student. It doesn't matter what type of teacher you get. It's your dedication as a student which will matter, right? And hence faith in the teacher is so important, because if you constantly keep saying that uh, this could have been better, that could have been better, this is that, then you do not have faith in your teacher, right? You do not trust that the teacher knows how to take the class, your guru knows your capability, or knows what practices are best for you and what practices are not, right? So faith is also going to determine how much you are able to absorb. If you already all of these judgments and opinions we have, we are entering the class, the session with the cup full up till the brim. So if you pour more water, if you pour more tea over it, it's only going to fall out. It's never going to go in. So no matter which class you go to, and this isn't only restricted to yoga, no matter where you go and you are trying to learn something from there, leave all of your belief systems, leave everything behind. Just try to understand what the other person is saying, what the other person is trying to teach. And this is so important, right? Because this will not only help you in learning, it is also going to help you in your personal life, right? So when this is the quality of a good listener as well. They suspend all judgments, they leave behind everything, and people feel so comfortable coming to them and talking to them, because they are able to suspend the judgment. They're able to keep their own belief system aside, and actually listen to or see the side of the person who is talking, right? The person who is going through something would also have their own set of belief systems, and that is how they deal with things, right? So it's very important in life also, whenever you are trying to absorb something, learn something, to keep your belief systems aside, even if temporarily. That is also all right, right? But whatever you gain, keep it with you, and whatever you don't like, just discard it. But at that point of time, you have to leave something behind in order to be in the receiving mode, where you are able to receive something. If my closet, my almirah would be totally full of clothes, will I be able to buy more clothes and you know uh, put it in my almirah? I won't. There is no space, right? So in that same way, you have to first uh, give something, right? Take out something to create that space, right? So faith acts as a very big factor when you come even on the path of Gyan. You need to have faith that the scriptures that you are reading, the guru that you are following, the practices that you're following, these are all going to benefit, right? And last one of the six virtues is samadha, focus. SAMADHAN. One pointedness or focus. The last virtue that we have, right? So when you work through all the previous five, virtues, you will see that you reach this point where the mind is controlled, the senses are controlled, right? You have developed that kind of patience and that kind of belief. So now you can reach the stage where you can, you have already, purified the mind a little bit, already working on the purity. So when the purification will take place, you will see naturally your mind is going to be very focused, right? It is going to be very balanced and one pointed. So all of the other virtues are going to help you to reach to this stage where now the mind is prepared. Now all of your being is prepared to focus, to explore the path of Gyan Yoga more deep. Before this, a lot of things would have distracted you, you would have given up very easily. But at this stage, the purification has taken place so deeply that now you are ready for more exploration on the path of Gyan Yoga. Now you are ready to explore, go deeper of what Gyan Yoga is, right? So you are basically preparing yourself and opening up yourself to this point where you become focused, completely focused, right? So, after developing these six virtues, right, the fourth pillar that comes in is mumukshutva. I'm writing this down, right? Okay, so samadhan is Samadhan, right? And last one is mumukshutva. Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva, or intense desire to be liberated, right? So, we are living in a world where there are so many desires. We have so many desires, and we want all of them to, come true, right? All of our desires should be fulfilled, our dreams come true, right? And most of them in different directions. So one will pull you towards one direction, other will pull you towards another direction. But when you work on purification of the mind and your goal is very clear, now you have to go in this spiritual direction only. You want to be free from all the suffering. So when go towards this direction, right, and you work on your purification, there is bound to come a point where all of these desires, they are going to be condensed in this one desire, right? So all of them, eventually you will start, developing vairagya a lot. So all of them are going to, material desires are going to somewhere, uh, get less and less strong, right? And this desire develops. So first, in order to be free from all desires, one intense desire comes, the intense desire to be liberated, right? So when you go deeper in your spiritual journey, you will see all other desires begin to, get go away. But one desire is, increasing day by day, and that desire is to be free from all the suffering, right? Like Siddharth Gautam, when he, stepped out of his palace, there were four instances, where he saw the suffering of human life, and his decision to leave his family behind, his kingdom behind, came from an intense desire to look for an answer for and a permanent solution for this suffering, right? So when he was also, on the path of yoga, he was also on the path of yoga, right? So even for him, this desire came in. But for somebody who has meditated for a lot of time, for a lot of lifetimes, in fact, for them it might come earlier. So for Siddharth Gautam, it came at a very young age, right? And it didn't take him a lot of time, right? So it just took four things that he saw, and he was immediately, moved, and he was just like, let me go and, look for a permanent solution, right? How to be free from all the suffering. So depending on our own journey, depending on our own, the amount of practice you put in, you are bound to reach this point where this intense desire for liberation is going to pop up. And the day it does, the day it is, that intense, that is when you will be prepared for the core practices, right? The day it is going to be that intense, that is when you will leave behind everything without questioning anything, right? So right now when we, a lot of questions come up, that do we have to leave everything behind, should we leave everything behind, all of these things. But the moment this thing is going to, you are going to experience this thing, you are not, these all questions are going to leave you, right? And you are just simply going to, go deeper on your path of you. You will not think about what other people will think about. Can I leave the society? Can I not leave the society? We have certain moments in our life where, suddenly everything just becomes clear. Now you know where you have to go. It becomes quite clear to you, right? And that is what is like being talked of when this, intense desire of liberation is mentioned. Because after this point you will be completely prepared to step into the core practices. You will be completely, prepared to, leave certain things behind, maybe not go in uh, extreme isolation or just, isolation, but you will change your environment in such a way that now you can enter the core practices, right? So you might go and, just you know indulge, change your life in such a way where you are able to give maximum time to, you know uh, attending all of these, going to these places where Gyan Yoga is practiced, or knowledge related to Gyan Yoga is there. So you will direct your time, you will change your life in such a way where you are more involved in these things, right? So this intense desire of liberation, when this comes up, one becomes ready for the practices of Gyan Yoga. So four practices, right? Four practices of Gyan Yoga, which are first is Shravan, Shravan. Manan, Manana. Nididhyasana or meditation. Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana. So Shravan, first four practice. I will complete this, right? It will take a little bit time, but I'll just complete Gyan Yoga for you today, right? So Shravan, first thing, listening, right? So when you get this intense desire, that is when, you start looking for answers, start looking for, places where you will find answers. And first thing is when you step into the core practices of Gyan Yoga, you will have a lot of, uh, I can say, classes or sessions with your guru where the guru is going to share a lot of knowledge related to Jnana, right? And like teachings of Jnana, and that is when your listening is going to step, right? So first thing, which is the core practice, first core practice for a Jnana yogi is to listen, to actually become a good listener, right? Because when you are acquiring the knowledge, it's very important that you are present over it, right? So not only creating the space, but being completely present whenever the guru is, teaching you, listening to the guru, like trying to understand what he's trying to say, right? So being present in the class, not daydreaming, not, mind sometimes, has a tendency to run away everywhere else, but be in the class. So physically, mentally, being present when the guru is teaching to you, and actually carefully listening what he is trying to say, because the guru will, say certain things which are very deep, which are, and he will say little things, and he will tell you everything in those little, right? So if you are not attentive, if you are not listening, if you're not open to listening, then there is no way in which you can, actually work on that knowledge. So you can never move to the second stage if you haven't, done the first stage properly, right? So when you listen properly, when you hear whatever is being said, that is when you move to the second stage, which is manan, right? So now that you acquired the information, you've heard it correctly, then even after your philosophy classes, you would have seen that somewhere or the other you begin to contemplate on what is being talked about, right? Because in philosophy mostly, different topics are discussed. So other classes are more practical and experience oriented, but in philosophy, we like talk a lot, right? And sometimes when your doubts come up, we discuss a lot as well on what something is, what something isn't. So suppose you ask a personal doubt, right, in the class. So after the class, when you hear the answer, right, you contemplate on what was said, right, so that you could, actually change your life, or you can actually implement that thing in your life, right? So then you naturally step into the process of contemplation, right? Where the Gyan Yogi, whatever has been taught to him, now begins to, break that information down, tries to comprehend that information, tries to contemplate on what is being said and how, their life or their reality is influenced by what was discussed, right? Which is a very important step if you want to make any change in your life. If you do not contemplate on what is being said, if you do not reflect on it, you will never be able to change your life, right? Because when you start seeing it in the light of your own life, that is when you start to work on something, right? And then the Gyan Yogi moves towards the final stage, which is Nididhyasan or meditation. Everything that you have heard, everything you hear in the philosophy class, then you comprehend it, right? And then you go to your meditation class, and then you see that, okay, certain things are true, certain things are happening to me, right? Change is permanent. No matter which meditation you do, you are bound to notice that change, right? That everything is going to change, be it your breath, the way in which you breathe, the way in which you chant a particular mantra. Every day if you chant it, you will see you chant it differently depending on the state of your mind. You observe your mind very closely, how it runs. If, uh, there is movement, so much movement in the mind as well, right? So you see these things about you. So after you hear and you contemplate in other classes, you see that in meditation, you see it happening during your asana or pranayama classes, right? So meditation is the portion, which is mostly actually going to give you this understanding of whatever is being talked of, that you experience in meditation. Mostly you will see that that is the one which is the most important, right? So the Gyan Yogi also, the realities and the truths they are told of, mainly that their consciousness is the permanent thing. So they meditate on that consciousness instead of meditating on anything else. They meditate on the supreme reality, which they believe to be the supreme reality, which is the consciousness itself, right? Which is not going to be affected by time or your age. Nothing. It's there, it was there, and it will remain, right? So the Gyan Yogi then, in order to gain a deeper understanding, goes into meditation to understand all of these things, right? So this is the entire like process of Gyan Yoga. When you come on the path of Gyan Yoga, these are your steps and stages, and you keep working through them uh, step by step, and sometimes even simultaneously you work with all of them, right? So any doubts in any of this? All right. Okay. If there are no doubts, then let's end the session. Right. Okay. So back neck straight, just close the eyes. One time Om and three times Shanti. Inhale. Om. Shanti. 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 Join the palms together and rub the palms together. Open the eyes. And very slowly, while blinking and looking at the palms, open up the eyes. Come back with a smile. Namaste to everyone. I will see you all for your pranayam class in the afternoon.
Thank you. See you later.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.